She was just a spoiled billionaire's daughter, laughing at a poor vendor in the market that afternoon. She called his work village decoration and walked away with her friends. That one act of cruelty came back to haunt her in ways she never imagined. Why did she end up begging the same vendor for help months later? And what did he do that changed everything? Grab your popcorn, sit back, and find out as we go into this story. This is the story of a rich man named Chief David Adeyemi. He was the CEO of one of the biggest companies in Lagos. He had everything: money, power, and respect. His mansion in Lekki Phase 1 was the talk of the town. But his only daughter, Zara, was his greatest pride and his greatest mistake. He had spoiled her from birth. Designer clothes from London, shoes from Italy, bags from Paris. She never heard the word no in her life. She grew up believing she was better than everyone else. One Tuesday morning, Zara sat in front of her mirror. She was 22 years old. Her hair was freshly done. Her nails were painted gold. Her dress cost more than what some families earned in a year. Her phone buzzed. It was her friend. Bimp, babe, we're outside. Let's go to that new boutique in Aya. Zara picked up her designer bag and walked out. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. She didn't greet the maids. To her, they were invisible. In the car, Bimp and their other friend, Talu, were waiting. Both came from wealthy families too. Finally, Talu said, rolling her eyes, "You take forever." Zara laughed. "Beauty takes time, darling." When they reached Aya Market, Zara's face changed. The smell of dried fish hit her nose. "Why are we passing through here?" she asked, covering her nose. "The smell is terrible." The car stopped. "Traffic jam." Talu sighed. "Let's just walk. The boutique is not far." They stepped out and walked through the market. People stared at them. Their clothes were too expensive for this place. Then Zara stopped. In front of her was a small wooden stall. On the table were beautiful carvings. Animals, faces, traditional masks, all made from wood. Each piece was detailed, perfect. Behind the stall sat a young man named Kunle. He was about 27 years old. His clothes were simple. His hands were rough from years of carving. But his eyes were calm, peaceful. He looked up and smiled. "Good afternoon. Welcome to my small shop." Zara didn't return his greeting. She picked up one carving. It was a woman's face, so detailed it looked almost real. "How much?" she asked without looking at him. Kunle smiled. "That one is 15,000 naira, ma." "It took me 3 weeks to carve." Zara laughed. It was a cold, cruel laugh. 15,000? She said loudly. "For this village decoration? You must be joking." Bimp and Talu burst out laughing. Other people started looking. Zara dropped the carving back on the table carelessly. "You think I would put this in my house? My bathroom is worth more than everything here." But Kunle didn't shout. He didn't curse. He simply picked up the carving and wiped it gently. Then he looked at Zara. "Madam," he said softly, "everybody's hustle deserves respect. You may not like my work, but someone will appreciate the heart I put into it." Zara's smile faded. Something about his calmness bothered her. "Let's go," she said. "This place is giving me a headache." As they walked away, his words stayed in her head. Everybody's hustle deserves respect. That night, Kunle returned to his small room in a face-me-I-face-you compound. The room was tiny. One bed, one chair, one small table with his carving tools. On the wall was a photo of his mother. She was in the hospital. Kidney failure. The treatment was expensive. But every day he carved. Every day he saved. Every day he hoped. He looked at the photo. "Mama," he whispered, "I will save you. I promise." Far across the city, in the Adeyemi mansion, things were about to change forever. Chief David sat in his study. His phone was ringing non-stop. His secretary knocked urgently. "Sir," she said, trembling, "the EFCC is here. They have a warrant." Chief David's face went pale. When he walked into the living room, 6 men in black uniforms were waiting. One stepped forward. "Chief David Adeyemi," he said, "you are under investigation for fraud and money laundering. All your assets are frozen. This property is now under government seizure." Madam Grace ran down the stairs. "What is happening?" "David, what are they talking about?" Zara came out too. "Daddy, what's going on?" The officer continued, "You have 48 hours to vacate. All vehicles are seized." Zara's eyes went wide. "Vacate, this is our home." The officer looked at her coldly. Not anymore. The next few days were chaos. News spread fast. His accounts were frozen. His properties were seized. His friends disappeared. Zara tried calling Bimp, no answer. She tried Talu, blocked. Other friends laughed at her. "Your Papa Don fall. We no fit associate with criminals again." The line went dead. A week later, Zara and her mother moved into a small single room in Aya. The same Aya where Zara had mocked Kunle. Chief David was taken for questioning. The room was all they could afford. One window, one fan that barely worked, cracked walls. The toilet was outside, shared with 10 families. Zara stood in the middle of the room. Her designer dress was dusty. Her gold nails were chipped. "This can't be real," she said. "This can't be my life." Madame Grace sat on the thin mattress. "We must survive, Zara. We have no choice." Zara looked at her mother. The woman who used to wear diamonds now wore a faded wrapper. "I need to find work," Zara said quietly. "Work? You've never worked a day in your life." Zara's eyes burned. "Then I will learn." The next morning, she went out to find work. She walked from shop to shop, from office to office. A boutique owner laughed at her. "Experience? What can you do?" "I can talk to customers. I know about fashion." The woman shook her head. "You look like you need help yourself." "Sorry." A restaurant manager asked, "Can you cook? Wash plates?" "I can learn," Zara said. He shook his head. "I need someone who can start today." By evening, she had walked for hours. Her feet were swollen. Her pride was crushed. She sat on a bench. She looked at her hands. "What do I even know how to do?" The answer was nothing. Days turned into weeks. Zara learned to cook simple meals. She learned to wash clothes by hand. She learned to fetch water. But she still couldn't find work. One afternoon, hungry and desperate, Zara found herself back at Aya Market. She walked through the narrow paths, the same path she had walked months ago with her pride. Now her shoes were torn. Her dress was faded. Her stomach was empty. She tried to sell her remaining jewelry. Buyers offered almost nothing. They could smell her desperation. She wandered through the market. Her legs were tired. Her heart was heavy. She found a wooden bench and sat down. She was exhausted, defeated. She closed her eyes. And then she heard a voice. "Madam, are you okay?" She looked up slowly. Her heart stopped. Standing in front of her was Kunle, the vendor she had mocked. He was holding a bottle of water and a small bag of chin-chin. Shame flooded her body. She remembered her words, every cruel word. She wanted to disappear. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Kunle sat down beside her. He opened the water and handed it to her. "Drink," he said gently. "You look like you need it." Zara's hands shook as she took the bottle. She drank slowly. The water felt like life. Kunle placed the chin-chin beside her. "Eat. You can pay me back later, or not. It doesn't matter." Tears fell from her eyes. "Why are you helping me? After what I said? After how I treated you?" Kunle was quiet. Then he spoke. "Because kindness is not about who deserves it. It's about who you choose to be. I saw you that day, and I saw an unhappy person. You had money, but you had no peace." Zara sobbed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said." Kunle nodded. "Life doesn't shame us. It trains us to see clearly." He stood up and stretched out his hand. "Come, let me teach you." That day changed everything. Kunle brought Zara to his stall. He showed her his carvings. He explained each piece, the story behind it, the time it took. "People don't just buy things," he said. "They buy feelings. They buy stories. Your job is to make them feel something." Zara listened carefully. For the first time in her life, she truly listened. Day after day, she came back. Kunle taught her how to arrange carvings. He taught her how to smile at customers genuinely. He taught her how to speak politely, how to negotiate fairly. At first, she made mistakes. She priced things wrongly. She got frustrated when customers walked away. But Kunle never shouted. He just corrected her gently. "Patience," he always said. "Everything takes time." Weeks passed. Zara began to change. She smiled more. She spoke softer. She learned to appreciate small things. She also learned Kunle's story. His mother was sick, kidney failure. Every naira he earned went to her treatment. Why don't you give up? Zara asked one evening. Kunle looked at her. Because she's my mother, and giving up is not an option when you love someone. Zara was quiet. She thought about her own parents, how she had blamed them when everything fell apart. I've been so selfish, she whispered. Kunle shook his head. You were blind. Now you see. That's what matters. One afternoon, Zara had an idea. She looked at Kunle's carvings. They were beautiful, but they looked traditional. What if they were presented differently? She took one carving and placed it on a black cloth. She added some small LED lights around it. Suddenly, it looked modern, luxurious. Kunle's eyes widened. That looks expensive. Zara smiled. That's because it is. We just need to make people see it. That night, they worked together. Zara used her knowledge of rich people combined with Kunle's talent. They created a new line, Afro-modern, traditional African art with a luxury touch. Zara took photos and posted them online. She contacted interior designers she used to know. The response started slowly. One inquiry, then another, then orders. A famous interior design company in Victoria Island reached out. They wanted a partnership. Kunle couldn't believe it. This is really happening? Zara nodded, tears in her eyes. This is really happening. We're going to make it, Kunle. Together, they named their business Z&K Creations. Zara handled marketing and sales. Kunle handled production. Together, they built something beautiful. Months passed. The business grew. Their carvings were in hotels, offices, and homes across Nigeria. International buyers started calling. Orders came from London, Dubai, New York. Kunle's mother got her treatment, a kidney transplant. She survived. The first time she visited the workshop, she cried with joy. My son, she said, holding Kunle's face. You never gave up on me. Kunle smiled through tears. How could I, Mama? You raised me alone. You are my heart. Zara watched them, her own eyes wet. This is what love looks like, she thought. Not designer bags, but sacrifice, patience, faithfulness. Zara and Kunle grew closer. What started as teacher and student became friendship. What became friendship became something deeper. One evening, they sat on the rooftop of their workshop, watching the Lagos sunset. Kunle turned to Zara. When you mocked me that day, I felt hurt. But I also saw something in your eyes. Zara looked at him. What did you see? Emptiness. You had everything, but you had nothing inside. I knew life would humble you. I just didn't know it would bring you back to me. Zara moved closer. I'm glad it did. You saved my life, Kunle, not just from poverty, but from myself. You showed me that kindness is stronger than cruelty, that love is more valuable than money. Kunle took her hand. And you gave my work the recognition it deserved. We saved each other. They sat in peaceful silence as the stars came out over Lagos. To people from different worlds, now walking the same path, building the same dream, sharing the same hope. Madam Grace recovered from her depression. She started helping at the workshop, managing accounts. Chief David was eventually released. Some charges were dropped, others were reduced. He returned home, not to a mansion, but to the small room in Aya. When he walked in with a walking stick, he saw Zara, but she was different. Her hands were rough now. Her smile was genuine. Her eyes had wisdom. Daddy, she said, hugging him. Chief David held his daughter. Tears ran down his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. I failed you. Zara shook her head. No, Daddy, you taught me something important. When everything is taken away, you find out who you really are. I was a terrible person before. Proud, cruel, empty. Now I know what matters. Love, kindness, hard work, respect. She took his hand and led him outside. There, standing by a delivery van with the Z&K Creations logo, was Kunle. Chief David looked at him. Who is this? Zara smiled proudly. This is Kunle, the man I mocked in the market a year ago. The man who helped me when I had nothing. The man who taught me how to work, how to respect others. He showed me what true kindness means. Chief David walked to Kunle. He stretched out his hand. Thank you, he said, his voice breaking. For saving my daughter. Kunle shook his hand firmly. She saved herself, sir. I just showed her the way. Chief David started volunteering at a youth center. He taught young people about financial literacy, about the dangers of corruption. I had everything, he would tell them, and I lost it all because I was greedy. Build something honest. It may take longer, but it will last forever. One Sunday evening, the whole family gathered at the workshop for dinner. Madame Grace had cooked jollof rice. Kunle's mother brought moin moin. There was music. There was laughter. Chief David stood to make a toast. 1 year ago, I thought my life was over. I had lost everything, but I was wrong. The only things that matter were still with me. My family. He looked at Kunle and his mother. You helped us when we were strangers. You showed us grace when we deserved nothing. That is love. That is God. That is everything. Everyone raised their glasses. Zara looked around the table. This is what true richness means, she thought. Not money, not power, but kindness, love, lifting others up. She looked at Kunle across the table. He was laughing at something her father had said. She had mocked this man once, called his work village decoration, said her toilet was worth more than his dreams. Yet when she had nothing, when everyone abandoned her, he had offered water, food, hope, a future. She walked over and took his hand. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. Kunle squeezed her hand. Thank you for letting me help. Some people are too proud to accept kindness. You were brave enough to be humble. The night grew late. The stars shone bright over Lagos. But on that rooftop, surrounded by family and love, everything was peaceful. Zara looked at the sky. The kindness you reject today might be the hand you'll need tomorrow, she whispered. Kunle smiled. And we rise higher when we lift others. The moon shone bright. A new chapter was beginning. For Zara and Kunle, for Chief David and Madame Grace, for Kunle's mother and the whole Z and K family. The best was yet to come. They had learned that wealth is not measured in money. It is measured in love given and received, in hands that help without asking for reward, in hearts that forgive without holding grudges. Zara had started as a spoiled princess who looked down on everyone. She had ended as a humble, hard-working woman who understood the value of every person she met. And Kunle, the poor vendor who had every reason to hate her, had chosen kindness instead. That choice had changed both their lives forever, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. The workers they hired, the families they supported, the young people they inspired. One act of cruelty had brought Zara low, but one act of kindness had lifted her back up. And in lifting her, Kunle had been lifted too. That is the power of grace. That is the magic of mercy. That is the beauty of choosing to be kind even when you have every reason to be cruel. As Z and K creations continued to grow and expand, Zara and Kunle made a promise to each other. They would never forget where they came from. They would never forget the lessons they learned in that dusty market. They started a program to train young people in wood carving. They hired vendors from the same market where their story began. They gave opportunities to people who had none. They became the hands that lifted others, just as Kunle had lifted Zara. One day, a young girl came to their workshop. She was arrogant and rude, looking down on everything she saw. She reminded Zara so much of herself a year ago. The girl picked up a carving and laughed. This looks like something my maid would buy, she said cruelly. Zara felt anger rise in her chest. But then she remembered. She remembered sitting on that bench, hungry and broken. She remembered Kunle's gentle voice offering her water. She remembered his words. Kindness is not about who deserves it. Zara walked over to the girl with a smile. Would you like to learn how we make these? She asked gently. The girl looked surprised. Why would I want to learn that? Zara's smile didn't fade. Because you never know when you might need a skill. Life changes fast. Today you're standing. Tomorrow you might be sitting where I once sat. The girl didn't understand, but she took Zara's number anyway. 6 months later, that same girl called. Her father's business had collapsed. Her family had lost everything. She was desperate for work. Zara remembered that call, and she smiled. Come tomorrow, she said. Let me teach you, because that's what grace does. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't hold grudges. It simply gives the way it was given. The cycle continues. The kindness multiplies. And slowly, the world becomes a little bit better. Years passed. Z&K Creations became a household name across West Africa. Their story was featured in magazines and newspapers. Universities invited them to speak. Young entrepreneurs wanted to learn from them. But Zara and Kunle never forgot their beginning. Every year, on the anniversary of the day Kunle gave Zara water in the market, they returned to that same spot. They set up a free stall and gave water and food to anyone who needed it. They called it the Day of Kindness. Market vendors looked forward to it. Street children knew they would eat that day. And every person who received something heard the story. The story of a proud girl who fell, and a humble man who lifted her. The story of how one act of kindness changed everything. Some people cried when they heard it. Some people were inspired. Some people changed their ways. And every year, the impact grew. Because stories have power. Stories change hearts. And changed hearts change the world. Zara and Kunle eventually got married. It was a simple ceremony in the market where they met. No expensive venue. No elaborate decorations. Just family, friends, and the market people who had watched their story unfold. Chief David walked his daughter down the dusty market path. His eyes were full of tears, but they were happy tears. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "Not because of your success, but because of who you've become." Zara squeezed his hand. "Thank you for letting me fall, Daddy. I needed to fall to learn how to stand properly." The wedding was beautiful. Simple but beautiful. Kunle's mother danced with joy. Madame Grace cried happy tears. And when Kunle and Zara said their vows, they added something special. "I promise to always remember where I came from," Zara said. "I promise to never look down on anyone's honest work. I promise to lift others the way you lifted me." Kunle smiled. "I promise to always see the best in people, even when they show me their worst. I promise to choose kindness, even when it's hard. I promise to build with you, dream with you, and grow with you." They sealed their promises with a kiss, and the market erupted in cheers. This was their home. These were their people. This was where their real life began. Not in a mansion in Lekki, but in a dusty market in Aya. Not with silver spoons and golden plates, but with wooden carvings and humble hearts. Not with pride and arrogance, but with kindness and grace. And that made all the difference. This story reminds us that pride always comes before a fall, and true kindness is never wasted. Zara was just a spoiled billionaire's daughter who thought she was better than everyone. She mocked a poor vendor without knowing that same man would become her salvation. She laughed at his work without knowing she would one day need his help to survive. And in the end, her cruelty and his kindness changed both their lives forever. Sometimes the people we look down on are the ones who will lift us up when we fall. Sometimes the hand we push away is the same hand that will feed us when we're hungry. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we never expected to learn. Never mock anyone's hustle. Never laugh at someone's struggle. Never think you are better than anyone else because of what you have. Money comes and goes. Properties can be seized. Friends can abandon you. But character stays. Kindness stays. The seeds you plant in other people's lives will grow. Whether they are seeds of love or seeds of cruelty. Plant wisely, because you will harvest what you sow. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What lesson did you learn from this story? What part touched your heart the most? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I read every single comment. Also, I have another very interesting story coming in just a few days. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell, so you'll know the moment the story is uploaded. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends and family. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching until the end. You are amazing, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care of yourself, and remember, be kind to everyone you meet, because you never know what tomorrow holds. Goodbye for now.